Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Metro Exodus Sam Story DLC, a Man of Principle trophy walkthrough, and this is episode 10, which I have named Apex Exterminator. And we pick up just after we left the zipline in episode 9. And we're gonna go into this building and be aware that there was one mine just by the corner of the house, and there is a second one just inside this old door or window or whatever it is. And finally we have picked up the radiation suits. And I think throughout this walkthrough I have referred to them as hazmat suits and hazard suits and whatever, but I'm gonna refer to them as radiation suits throughout the last two episodes of this guide, because I think that is the official name for them. And as you also saw inside that house, there is a workbench, and feel free to go in there and stock up on ammo or med kits, because we are going in to the third and final fight against the Batwing. And if you're playing this on PlayStation, I highly recommend that you back up your save to PlayStation Plus, just as a precaution before you go into this fight. Because this last fight is the last hurdle that stands between you and the Untouchable trophy. And that is for defeating the Batwing in all 3 encounters without dying. You can die whenever you wish throughout the rest of this game. Die as many times as you wish. But in these fights you need to take all these 3 fights on the first try. And this fight is a little bit different from fight 1 and 2. Because in the cutscene after fight number 2, which I trimmed out of this walkthrough, the Batwing lost his wings. So he's now... Can you really refer to him as a Batwing after that? X-Batwing, maybe? Bat-X-Wing? Whatever. Either way, so he is, so to speak, ground-bound, just as you. And the key to knowing where he is, which you have probably seen thus far, is that you will see him rustling in the trees, and you will see big clouds of dust that he's kicking up when he's running around this arena. And I like to try to stay as close to the center as possible, and also back up a little bit as I'm turning around, so I never stay too close to the edge of this little clearing. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. This little forest clearing, so he doesn't come jumping straight out of the bushes and into your face. And sometimes he will also go up into the trees, but as far as I know, he cannot jump down from like the crown of a tree and land on you. The only way he can attack you is by coming running out of the bushes. And this fight, anyone who has played The Evil Within 1 should be able to recognize this fight, so to speak. Because in that game there is a mutant monster killer dog that's called the Sentinel. I think it's the boss of chapter 6. Not 100% sure. I played that game when it came out in, what was it, 2014? Haven't played it since, actually, even though it was a really good game, but it had some flaws. But that fight against that super mutant monster dog is very similar to this. Even that dog, when he comes charging at you and you shoot at him, he even somersaults out of the way, just like this Batwing does. And quite unfortunate timing that I said it in the one instance, or one of the few instances, where I didn't manage to hit him enough to get him to roll out of the way. And now I even switched over to my incendiary rounds. Not that it's in any way necessary in this fight, I just wanted to speed it up a little. And that was quite good timing, because now the fight is actually over. If you want the fight to go a bit quicker than I did, feel free to use the incendiary rounds throughout the entire fight. I like to be a bit conservative with them, which I have said throughout my videos. I'm just mentioning it again because there might be people that don't follow the entire walkthrough and just look up certain episodes to get help getting through or over a special hurdle or something. But either way, now the Batwing is dead, but the trophy for beating him will not unlock here. For me, it unlocked at the end of the game, so you will see it at the end of the next video, which is the final video of this walkthrough. And I'm not quite sure why it unlocked there. Maybe it's just that the game looks through your stats when you get to the ending and sees that, yeah, you beat the Batwing all 3 encounters on your first try. Or maybe just my PlayStation was super slow with getting with the program. Because that is something that can happen sometimes. And I guess anyone who's watching and who is a PlayStation gamer as well has sometimes experienced that a trophy pops quite a long time after you've unlocked it. Because sometimes it's happened to me that the trophy has popped like 10 minutes after I should have unlocked it, which is super weird, and I don't know why that happens. If it's maybe because PlayStation is under high pressure at the time, or just shitty programming. But now that we have gotten a bit further on inside this shed, there is of course some good loot, so pick up all the nice stuff you can find in here, and as you can see there is also a workbench. So if you're running low on medkits after taking out the bat bitch, so feel free to use the workbench in here to create some new medkits or create more ammo or whatever. I think I actually did. I've trimmed out my work at workbenches, but I think I did stock up on medkits because I saw I only had 1 left. And you are not required to listen to this message on the tape recorder. I was just listening to it because I was looking through this room to see, so I didn't miss any of the good loot. But when you feel that you are done, we are gonna go out and make a hard left and continue along this path. And here there are 2 prawns. There is one over there and there is another one over there. I think even a 3rd one will join the party. I try to just run past them, because when you get up to this little statue, or what remains of this statue, we are gonna contact the captain. And he says he will be there in a minute or 2. And I'm never a big fan of that, because if you have played through Metro Last Light, there is an instance where you crawl through a tunnel and you ring a bell and you're waiting for a ferry to arrive and you get jumped by a shitload of Nosalises. That is one of those parts of that game that I still think is hard to this day. I'm not sure if it's that section is hard or just that I'm shit at it. But this one is quite a lot easier. You can see the captain is heading our way, and if you want to, you can. These prawns aren't very quick, so if you want to, you can just run circles around them. I got a bit carried away here and ran up to the boat and realized that prawn was just behind me. But had I run one more lap, I would have been able to get aboard this boat unscathed, I think. But after we get aboard the boat, we are going to where the fuel rods are. This is the reason we were looking for the radiation suits. Now we are in the depot where the fuel rods to fuel up the sub is. And in here you have to use the gas mask. There is a reinforced gas mask that you should have in your inventory, and I would recommend that you equip that, because we get in here and there is a workbench to the right, so equip that there because we have to use it throughout this area. And here we see our old friends, the spiders. Every Metro game has a spider level, and this one is of course no exception. And if you have followed my spiders, if you have followed my videos, you know the fact that I'm not a big fan of spiders. Not in real life, not in video games. I think the spiders in the Metro games have always been quite, so to speak, kind. Because they are very forgiving when you face off against them. You can just shine your flashlight at them and they will die because they are allergic to light. But since this is a sequel, or technically an expansion, but I've talked about that before in video games, that when they create a sequel for a game or a new installment in a game series, you always have to increase the stakes, don't you? I talked about that in Uncharted 4, that they added the grappling hook, which was a fun mechanic to fuck about with, and made the platforming a bit more dynamic. But I also talked about that I thought that it was inconsistent, because according to that game, Sam taught Nate to use the grappling hook when they were children. Even though he never uses the grappling hook in any of the previous installments. And he even, I took that as an example in Uncharted 2 when Tenzin, the Himalayan guy, uses a grappling hook. Nate is really skeptical about how well it would work. But having grown up with it, he shouldn't be so skeptical, because he knows since childhood that it is a mechanic that does work quite well. But the thing with these new spiders, the electric spiders, you got a bit of a demonstration when the first one showed up. And that is that whenever they are close, they will knock out all the electricity in the room. Because in some instances you will turn on light switches, so you will illuminate the room, which will of course kill every spider in the vicinity. Just because, as I said, they are allergic to light. But when one of those electric fuckers are in here, they will knock out the light, so you will have to shoot them to be able to move on. And that is also something they will use in, I'm not gonna say puzzles, but we are heading into an elevator. And of course that elevator is gonna break down because one of those come close and the elevator will power down. And something, the captain tells you that the incendiary rounds are insanely powerful against these spiders. And that is true. In the video thus far you have seen me going up against a few normal spiders, and against those it is extremely powerful. With these electric ones, I feel that it is a bit underwhelming, because this fight will go on a bit further than it should. Bit due to the fact that these regular spiders, if you hit them with one bullet, just like any human enemy, you saw I shot him once, one bullet I put on the manual barrel, or whatever it's called, marksman barrel. So I fire single shots and they instantly burst into flames and die, which is great. But now watching this video, and that was something I reacted to when I was recording this, it felt like the hit detection on that electric bastard sometimes is a little bit off. But I would actually recommend that use the burst barrel system and save your incendiary rounds. Because on the last level, or whatever you want to call it, there is an instance where we are going to use quite a lot of incendiary rounds. You will be able to create more ammo just before, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I think using them on these electric ones, it's not as powerful as the captain would have you believe. And now I think I switched over to the burst system and hopefully my regular bullets. Not quite sure. This is also one of those videos where I actually didn't have time to watch through it before, so I'm not 100% certain which parts come first here. But now I think I'm with the program. And there, as you can see, there are filters everywhere in this building. I always feel it's a little bit stressful when you're in one of these areas where you have to use the gas mask, even though these games are really lenient with the filters, which I think is very kind. But I talked about the fact that if your gas mask breaks, and that is something I think I said at least at the beginning of this episode, there is an upgrade that's called a reinforced gas mask that we should have picked up by now, and I think I had it equipped going through this level, which makes your gas mask more resilient to damage, because in an area, in these hazardous areas, if your gas mask breaks, you're fucked. There are no buts about it. You cannot survive for any longer than, I think it's like 1 minute, if your gas mask breaks. And I think you have to use a workbench to fix it if it breaks down completely. But at least now we are getting close to the end of this main area. And we are gonna go into, I'm not gonna call it a boss fight because it isn't. It's like a mini boss fight. Because up on these walkways, we are gonna power it up so the captain can get through with the boat. And of course, while we have gone through this base, or this depot, or whatever it is, he's just been sitting like a fat rat in his boat, cushing about, while we had to face off against giant electric monster spiders. Which I feel is a little bit unfair. It would be great if you could tell the captain, just fuck you, do it yourself. You can go in and face off against the killer spiders and I'll sit here in the boat and wait for you. But when you power it up, that crane will start moving and start, I guess, moving the fuel rods into the boat. And we are gonna face off against 2 electric spiders. Here comes the first one. And they always go on a set path relating to where you are in this area. He comes here, he will run up there, and then he will come down, I think, over in the left corner. Not quite sure. As I said, I didn't have time to watch through this video before. There we have him, and he starts running. Yes, he comes down from the opposite corner. You saw he does take fire quite quickly, not as quickly as I had hoped.
Good thing I'm not afraid of shots.
And after he is dead, 1 more spider will show up. So I walked over here to the elevator because I had forgotten about the second spider. Switched over to my normal bullets, and you see the electricity goes out again. Turn around, see him over there, and I got pissed, so I just put 3 swarms of bullets into him. And you saw, I did 3 bursts with the regular bullets, and I think he went down in 2 bursts with the incendiary. And I think he fires 3 bullets in each burst, so it's 6 or 9 bullets. So it's not a big save, considering especially the fact that you have, I think if you have the ammo pouches vest, you can carry a maximum of 180 regular bullets, and you can carry 90 incendiary. So I think it's still more economic to use the regular ones. But now that the fuel roads, now that the fuel roads, the Fury Road, we're going to Mad Max universe. Now that the fuel rods are loaded up on the boat, of course shit had to go sideways, as they do. We have to prolong the suffering in the spider level of hell a little bit more. Because your elevator breaks down and you fall down into the shaft, then we're gonna have to take a long way back up to the captain. And in this old cistern or whatever it is, I just followed the path up to the left. I know this place is probably dark as hell in your YouTube video. It's quite hard for me to tell because in my editing software it gets even darker. It's always interesting when I'm trying to narrate videos that are really dark because I don't know what it is with my editing program because the videos are even darker when I'm narrating them. And it looks a lot better when I upload them to YouTube, so that is a good thing. I remember when I did my The Last of Us walkthrough in what is it, level 3, when you're in that school, when you're sneaking through the first corridor before you go into the classroom. I remember I narrated that because that is a really dark area. It doesn't seem as dark in the video if I remember correctly, but when I did the commentary on that, I was basically more or less narrating blind because I couldn't see shit. But luckily for me, I had played through that game so many times and I did see more or less silhouettes, so I could make out what was going on screen, but it was a little bit harder due to the program. And it's probably something I could fix in the settings, but I've gotten used to it and usually I don't do super dark levels. But now we're going through the ventilation, the last part, going back to the captain. And to get through the ventilation, as you probably saw, you need to wait for that electric spider to show up and power down that big fan so you can get through the shaft. And after that, we go through the second hatch or whatever you want to call it. And then we can just run out here and jump back on the boat and leave these fucking disgusting spiders behind and head into the last episode of the walkthrough. But I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.